Hey guys, today I'm going to quickly go over one of my tracks that I did, Kill Code, hybrid trailer, just showing insight into how and what I used to make it. But first, we're just going to play through it. I'm just going to stick these on so I can hear it as well. So I'll do a playthrough really quickly for you guys to hear it, and then I'll go into what I actually used. So that was my track Kill Code. Wrote it a couple of weeks ago, and I've been meaning to do a video to sort of stick on the YouTube channel, but didn't really know what to put on. So I thought I'd try and just help people out if they're trying to write something like this. I'm by no means the best at it. There's guys out there that are absolutely awesome, but I thought I'd just share with people what I can do. And if you've got any tips or hints, please just put them in the comments below and just let me know. So this one, I really love the Resident Evil films and really wanted that sort of Marilyn Manson style vibe. So it's always got that really like eerie sounding piano, sort of like a semi like xylophone sort of sound to it. Literally as simple as one note. There's loads of reverb on that. Let me just dig out where it is. So yeah, Una Corda, absolutely amazing bit of kit. This is just bog standard, just loaded straight in. The only thing I did was I changed the reverse. If I take this off, you can barely hear it, but it brings up the end just as the note's fading out. It just brings it back up. So that and the mixer. Let's bring this across here. I normally use two screens, which is why this is a bit weird. There we go. So yeah, using FL20 was FL12 that I upgraded a while ago. There's basically a ton of reverb on this. Set it with the dry kind of halfway. I left the early response where it was, and I just slapped the wet up. Without the wet, it doesn't have that haunting sound to it, but smacked that all the way up, and it's got that weird resonance behind it. So that was my theory, that was my starting point, and I thought, right, what else can I do? With everything, it always starts with a low boom. So the low boom itself is, let me find where I kept that one. I think this is Audio Imperium Multiverse, really decent bit of kit. Which one would it have been? It's one of these anyway. Renamed all of the samples and all the patterns just as I was going along, so I didn't get confused. So it's now called Low Boom, whereas before it was Boom 5 or Boom 6 or something. But the low boom at the really start and accenting points all the way through helps to sort of fill in that bottom end and keep it flowing. As the track progresses, I bring in more bits sort of on the low end, but at the very start as well there's also a drone. I'll have to turn this up. So quite an eerie sounding drone. If I can find where I got that one from. That was Shredders, which is Audio Imperia again. They had a sale on a while ago and I managed to pick up four sound libraries for quite cheap, which is pretty cool. With the drones in here, I just found one that sounded a bit eerie and a bit creepy, and I just dropped the volume down so it's really, really subtle, so you can't fully hear it, but it is still there. It just adds to the background of it, helps to fill out the soundscape. So the next element that comes in there is two elements. There's a kick, which is just a bog standard FPC kick found on here on FL. I know you're not supposed to put reverb on kicks, however, I thought it sounded pretty decent. So again with the reverb, smacked it pretty much all the way up to get that like massive echo on the back end of it. A compressor just to make it a little bit more punchy, and I use Maximus here just to stick all the really, really low, inaudible low end, all the rumble into mono, just so it didn't absolutely clutter everything up. So the Tychos, picked these up in the sale that they've got running at the moment, 8DO. They're doing like a flash sale. I think they're doing 14 different sales, and the new Epic Tycho ensemble was on sale, so I thought, oh, I've got to get that. This was the first time I'd ever used it, and I've not used it to its glory. I've just used it for this one little sort of motif, but I thought it sounded awesome. I haven't tweaked anything, just loaded it in, found some nice sounds, and went with that. Just pause that. There's loads of all sorts of stuff. Well, I just chose basic, just a little basic pattern there. So moving along, so from the intro we've got the low boom and the piano with the reverb with the drone behind it, and then I like the kick like standing out, being a bit more punchy, where the Tycho's in the background, and this is where obviously the hits start to come in. So before the bass lead comes in, I'll just talk about the hits. Renamed them again, Crazy Hit and Beefy Hit. So the Crazy Hit, it's a massive tail on it, really sort of like hybrid design sort of sound to it. This was, trying to find the library this is from. Pretty certain it's from Multiverse. He will find it, he says. Alright, so no luck trying to find that one. But anyway, I really liked it because it had sort of a decent tail on the end of it, and it's got that sort of other harmonics at the back end of it, which sound pretty decent. So I mixed that in with what I've renamed the Beefy Hit. It's got that, it sounds like a voice, bringing it up and then punching through. There's no hiding from that hit whatsoever. So the hits themselves, the Crazy Hit, I've just stuck a fruity wrapper onto it, just to kind of mess around with the sound a little bit. But the other hit, the Beefy Hit, haven't touched it at all. Just sort of sat them into the mix, panned them off to the left a little bit, just to counteract the drums that come in a bit later. But really nothing touched on them at all. The samples that come with Audio Imperia stuff are pretty amazing, so I don't mess around with them. Going with that as well, the first riser. So this again was riser 6. So another multiverse. Pretty sure it's that one. This is it's a reversed effects. That's why I've called it a riser. My bad. It's not. It's like a reversed effect. You still use it for the same principle though. I didn't want anything like you just heard in that last one that's kind of like a transformer sound. I didn't think it would go with what I was trying to make. So decided to just go for the reversed effect, just to have that sort of rise of that whoosh coming up with the weird sort of high-pitched back-end noise to it as well. Moving on from that, we've got the low booms that go all the way through. So the boom we heard at the start carries through and just hits on the downbeat of every other bar. The piano doing the same thing as well. And it's after the intro comes the build-up stage. So for this, I decided to slap in this, the bass line. There's a lot more I could have done with this. The automation throughout this track is, compared to what I normally do, it's pretty poor. I just wanted to knock something together, and then by the end of it, it sounded pretty cool, so I decided to leave it. But this bass itself, it's from Juggernaut. It's the bass patch from Juggernaut. It's literally, as soon as you load it up, the sub sound on the solid hit, that nothing's been changed on it. Set to default. Just loved the sound of like that sort of sine wave, really low, and it managed to cut through it properly. If I play it from just before the rise, you'll hear it when it comes in. So it doesn't stand out too much, but it's enough for you to feel it. So as it builds, you start to hear the lead come in. Which again is morphed off what the bass line was doing. It's obviously missing the last two sections to it. I think this was Juggernaut as well. Yeah, so this is loaded up the bass patch again for Juggernaut, slapped it on fuzz, patchable frozen solid. It just sounds awesome. In the mixer, there's quite a lot working on it. If I take all of this off, so it doesn't sound anything like it did a second ago. So the gross beat is basically what's doing the bulk of the work. So if you see that, it's scooping out halfway through. It just makes the pitch just drop down. Stick the wrapper back on. The EQ here. I've taken out the top end for it. The same again. Reverb, of course, just to give it that echo that fits with the rest of the track. With the reverb, that's failed for some reason. So it dries quite high, wets 2/3 of the way up. Early response is quite high as well. I just messed around with it. The size is massive on this. Just messed around until I found something that sounded pretty decent. And then to help it cut through and accent everything else and bring out all those harmonics, slapped the distortion overdrive on it. Just sweetie. If this was on full, too much rumble in the background, so I dropped it down to about here. So with that, I had a volume gain automated. So the first time that you hear it just around here, you don't really hear it properly. It's swallowed up by the hits and the bram that's at the bottom. But as it comes through, it starts to swell, so you start to hear it more. The only variation that I decided to use was in the pattern itself. Kind of like a glitchy sort of sound to it. If I was really taking my time on this, I would have tweaked the EQ and things like that. But I just liked the way it sounded, so decided to leave it. The only other part to this section here in the build-up is the bram itself. no prizes for guessing what sample library I've got this from. This is Multiverse again. Absolutely love it. It's my go-to at the moment for anything that's hybrid related. I mean, their Brams are pretty awesome. That was number 10. So that's it. Before it's been tweaked. But some of the stuff that they've got in here is just mad. That's my favourite, but I've not been able to justify using it yet because it's quite distinct. So yeah, the Brams, they come in, what bar would that be? Come in at bar 9, so that's the very start of the build-up, to come in with the hits. It's that tail at the end that you hear. You don't hear the hits obviously take all the weight of the sound there, but it's just in the background, just adding to it. The Bram itself, it's deciding to save. The Bram itself has a gross beat set onto it, so it's the same one that I've used in the main distorted lead riff, but with that, as the tails go in, it kind of ducks it down in pitch and then brings it back up again. Really subtle tweaks to it. There's no panning on it whatsoever, just dropped it down into the mix and made it sit nice. So I'm going to play through. It's going to come into a riser just before the first drop, and then we'll go from there. Just as we hit the first sort of like gap, the first drop before the climax, brought in a new hit. Really quick fire. I've renamed it Snap Hit. Really quick, sharp. What I wanted to use them for was just to punch through the mix and just accent. I think they're in triplets at the moment. That is again another Multiverse. They've got hits and short hits. So the hits have normally got like a big whoosh and a tail to them, whereas the short hits are really quick fire, which is what I've used. I think it was number 5 that I used for this one. But like a lot of the stuff, this one I've literally just done nothing to it. I've just put it down into the mix because I wanted it to punch through. I didn't want to sort of take stuff out on the EQ, add reverb, kind of mess it about. I wanted it to kick through. So as the rise is coming through, it brings it in, and it's that last hit just before it all kicks off. Keeping with this, so the hits come in here, and then suddenly you've got this really eerie piano, same note as before, with a downer in the background. So not sure that's coming through. If you've got really good speakers, I apologise. You probably just had your ears blown out, but. The down is really subtle, really low sub bass, just dropping down, and then the way I worked it, I just wanted like a weird kind of so it's all kind of, you imagine it's like in the back of the room. That's what I was going for, and then it's suddenly you brought straight back into it with the hits again. So the hits pre-leading into climax 1. Everything's kind of stayed the same. We've just got a new group of instruments that have joined the party. So main drums. Now normally I wouldn't do this. It can be classed as cheating, but I just like the groove. So this is Action Strike's native instruments. Just wanted something big and powerful that was going to drive it through. It's kind of got like a epic-y vibe to it, which is not normally what you would go for. However, I felt with what I was doing, it worked. Let's just pause that. Let me just try and find that so I can show you which one it is. So yeah, it's in triplets, 8th note triplets, and heroic drums, just to scan through. Didn't want anything that sounded like Jingle Bells, basically, so decided to go for the heroic drums. So it's got that hit, that crack to it. So yeah, they came in, they carried the track. The rises, the brams, and the hits are still in there. Bass line's still doing the same thing. In fact, is the bass line in that? So yeah, the bass line carries on. However, the distorted lead is dropped out because I wanted to build tension back up until the last climax. So what else do we have in here? Alright, it's a double whammy. So what you're hearing is, so the brass ensemble library from Native Instruments. If you get Contact, it's the one that comes with it. Not Contact, sorry. If you get Complete, it's the one that comes with it. So I opted to go for the long triple F blast. It's big, basically. So that coupled with Evolve, Heaviosity, the Brastard. It's supposed to be brass, but it's got that weird, uncomfortable sound to it, which I thought worked nicely. So those two blended together have kind of made a bram of their own. Sticking that into the mixer. So the tubas, as before, the low end has been tweaked out a little bit into mono, just to stop it from rattling around. That's fairly good for some reason. And distortion. So without that, so it brings in the low end. The compressor, just bring it up. And distortion, just to wake it all up, give it that more gritty edge to it. And the compressor there is literally just to lift it off the ground. Nothing too special about it. The gain's obviously been pushed up through the roof a little bit. But this is the patch itself. Really, really weird sounding patch. In fact, if I go into it now. So you can see how they're going for brass, but it's obviously really tinny, really weird. But I thought it worked, basically, so decided to go for it. So that carries all the way through until we get a hybrid riser that I was using. This is from Shredders 1. I used this in the Chimera, one of the songs that I wrote a while ago. Really, really liked it, but decided to use it again in this. Haven't tweaked it at all. I just thought it sounded sick when it was worked in with the rest of the stuff. So yeah, if I just play that in context, I'll play it from just there. So we've got like 4 bars, and the rise is going to come in. So it's really subtle when it's mixed in with everything, but it's as the hits are coming in, the da 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 da. The rise is doing that weird end tail part to it. Kind of sounds like dial-up, if you know what I mean, but it's got that weird sort of sound to the end of it. So then we get into the final section, which is climax 2. I normally leave a pause in between 1 and 2, but didn't want to in this case. So the big snap hits, they come in, they drive it straight back into the track. The piano starts to work its way in. The only additions to this to make it sound a little bit more full and keep the tempo going is a little shepherd tone I was using. I think this is Juggernaut. No, Signal, my bad. So yeah, using Signal, biting rise, tweaked it around a little bit. Basically, it's just this really cool bit of Signal. So just tweaked around, found something that I like the sound of, and this is it in context. So it's really, really subtle. You can't hear it properly. but it is there in the background and carries everything else through. I think I'm glitching out a little bit. My computer doesn't like to stream and do this at the same time. So as before, the snap hits were only used to finish the build up and bring in climax 1 every other bar. Like, I'm now using it as the main driving force. So there's the downbeat followed by a rat-tat-tat-tat. Let's just solo these. So you can hear the main drums doing the downbeat, and then that comes in afterwards. To go with that, if I bring the hits into it as well, the hits have this sort of like, one of them actually, I think it's the Crazy Hat, has this sort of like whoosh, this build up into it. So when they're blended all together, it's pretty full on. You can't avoid it, and I quite liked it, so decided to just leave it as is basically. Let's just stop that for now. So what else do we have? The tubers, basically that the tubers and the Evolve weird tuber brass patch. Instead of doing long blasts like I do in the first section, which is here, shorten them down, and they're now doing short blasts. Same volume, same velocity and everything, just a lot shorter, so it kind of clears out and doesn't muddy up the bottom end with like a long tail. The only other part, except for some downers that come in to really punch through that bottom end, is the end piano, which I've renamed as Glitch Piano, which is fine wherever this is. So this is Evolve Mutations. Really weird. It sounds lovely, but I wanted to use it as like I said at the start, a Resident Evil vibe. So when this is played in context, so originally, so that's the pattern there, and then what I brought in, reverb to make it sit nice. Just carries the transient at the end of each note, just carries it through. I used Sound Goodizer. I used to use this a lot. I tend not to now because it has a certain sound to it that I've kind of gone off. But I kind of thought it worked. It just helps to bring it puts a bit of gain to it, and then a bit of colour to the notes. And then the main driving force behind it was that weird glitchy growth beat. I don't even know how to describe that. That's basically the setting I've gone for. It's called Chaos 1. I'm not too sure whether like Cubase or Ableton or anything like that have their own version of growth beat. I'm sure they do. But really decent bit of kit. I don't overuse it. I wouldn't advise overusing it. But to get that weird, I don't know, like Rammstein-y style Manson piano riff, I thought it worked nice. So that cuts over the top of the mix. So we're going from climax 2. It'll play a couple of bars, and then the piano comes in right at the very end. Once again at the end there. I didn't want to overkill it using because it's not exactly a melodic track. It's only short. It's like 1.5 minutes long. But I didn't want to kill it too much with too much piano, too many chords. Save that for like my other work that I'm doing. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and decided to keep it there. To play out the outro, I found this really nice turn this up so you can hear it. I think this is Evolve, top of my head. Yep. I'm just trying to find this. So yeah, Evolve Mutations, Rhythmic Suite, Percussive, which one do I go for? Scoreface Menu 1. And I just flicked around until I found something that was quite cool. I wanted, like, there's no way I could program that, it would take me ages to tweak it around and mess about with it, so I decided that I'd just go straight for the patch itself. Obviously not as loud as this. Just a nice sort of like underscore to it. With that down, I can bring all the way down really, really slowly. And the bass line carrying through. And then to finish. So all that is there at the very end is basically a ton of the low booms, the snaps, the taikos, kicks right at the very end to accent, beefy hit, so the hits from Multiverse, the rises and the downers from Shredders and Multiverse, and the bram that we heard very beginning, just to sort of play it through at the very end, so you think it's done and it just slaps you in the face one more time. So that is basically it. Structure wise, the first, let's just highlight these. So up until here, really, really low booms, that like one pivotal piano note just kicking into it, and then into the build up. So that's where the bass came in, the melody started to roll through it and that distorted sound came through. Weird little dropout, so normally a pause, a cut, something like that, straight into climax 1, which brought in the main body of the beat, the main tribal drums, and kind of drove the track through. And then the snaps are involved in that one as well, the trailer hits punching right through the mix, and then at the very end of it, it just went balls to the walls and went heavy. So that's all I've got today. This is the first time I've done a video. I'm going to share it a little bit later today. If you liked it, let me know, leave a comment, hit a like. If you haven't subscribed before, please hit the subscribe button and say hello. I'm always online. And if you want me to make any more of these, then please let me know. If you want behind the scenes stuff, if you want studio tour stuff, if you want sample library reviews, even though there's a shit ton out there. If you kind of want to see me make a track from scratch, anything like that, just let me know. Or if you're completely fed up with me and you just prefer the music, let me know as well. But anyway, remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Ben. This is Lycan Studios. And yeah, peace.